Is everything all right?
Yeah, just editing. Thanks for being here.
Always.
I was halfway through editing a wedding video when Claire walked into the apartment and dropped her keys beside the couch. "You're still working?" she asked. "I have 2 deadlines tomorrow," I said without looking away from my monitor. "If I finish this tonight, I can finally sleep." Claire laughed softly. "You always say that." I turned toward her and smiled. "And you always tell me I work too much." "That's because you do." She stepped behind my chair and rubbed my shoulders. "You need a break, Ethan." Her hands felt warm against my neck, and for a moment I forgot how exhausted I was. That was the thing about Claire Donovan. She could calm me down without even trying. I leaned back slightly. "How was work?" "Busy," she said quickly. "Actually, I have to go back tonight." I frowned. "Seriously? It's Friday. My manager wants the final presentation before Monday." She walked into the kitchen while speaking. "I'll probably stay late." "Late as in 10 o'clock late or midnight late?" "Don't wait up for me," she replied. Something about her tone felt distant, but I ignored it. For 3 years, Claire had been the most stable part of my life. I trusted her more than anyone. While she packed leftovers into a small container, I asked, "Do you want me to pick you up later?" "No, it's fine." She avoided my eyes. "I'll take a cab home." "You sure?" "Yes." She forced a smile. "I'll be working alone anyway." "It's boring." I nodded slowly. "Okay." Before leaving, she kissed my cheek and whispered, "I love you." "I love you too," I said automatically. An hour later, rain hammered against the apartment windows while I continued editing footage. Around 11:30, my phone buzzed beside my keyboard. I glanced down and saw a security notification. "Building exit detected." At first, I ignored it. Months earlier, Claire had asked me to help install a security app connected to her office building because she kept forgetting passwords. Somehow, her notification still appeared on my phone. I clicked the alert without thinking. The security footage opened instantly. I expected to see Claire leaving alone with her laptop bag. Instead, I stopped breathing. Claire walked through the lobby beside a tall man wearing a dark coat. They were laughing about something. Then he placed his hand against her lower back while they walked toward the exit together. The timestamp read 11:42 p.m. I replayed the footage immediately. Then again. Then again. "No," I whispered. My chest tightened painfully while I stared at the screen. Maybe I misunderstood something. Maybe he was just a coworker. But coworkers did not look at each other that way. I paused the footage on the exact moment his hand touched her back. My stomach turned. I grabbed my phone and called Claire immediately. She answered after the 3rd ring. "Hey, you still at work?" "Yeah," she said without hesitation. "Why?" I felt cold all over. "Just checking." "You sound weird." "I'm tired." She laughed quietly. "Then sleep, Ethan." In the background, I heard a man's voice. "Who's that?" I asked instantly. "What?" "I heard someone." "It's nobody." She answered too fast. "The cleaning crew is here." I closed my eyes. "Right. You okay?" "Yeah." "You sure?" "Yeah." After we hung up, I sat alone in the dark apartment and replayed the footage until sunrise. Every memory started feeling poisoned. Every smile looked fake. Every "I love you" sounded rehearsed. By morning, I finally admitted the truth to myself. Something inside my relationship had broken during the night, and I had no idea how to fix it. I made coffee around 6 in the morning, but my hands shook so badly that I spilled it across the counter. I kept hearing Claire's voice in my head. "I'll be working alone anyway." The lie sounded small, almost harmless, but it crushed me harder every time I remembered it. I opened the footage again and zoomed in on the man beside her. Sharp jawline. Expensive watch. Confident smile. I did not recognize him. That somehow made everything worse. I stared out the window as the rain stopped over Chicago. People below hurried toward trains and buses like normal life existed. Mine didn't. When Claire finally texted me, my chest tightened. "Made it home safe. Love you, Redheart." I read the message 5 times before locking my phone. For the first time in 3 years, I did not know if I believed her. The next morning felt unbearable. Claire stood in the kitchen wearing one of my old shirts while pouring coffee into 2 mugs. "You look awful," she said lightly. "Did you even sleep?" "Not much." "You worked too hard, Ethan." I watched her carefully. Her expression looked calm, natural, innocent. If I had not seen the footage myself, I would have believed every word coming out of her mouth. She slid a mug toward me. "Thanks for checking on me last night, by the way." I forced myself to ask, How late were you there? Almost 1. She shrugged. The presentation was a disaster. Were you alone the whole time? Yeah. She met my eyes without hesitation. Why? My stomach twisted. Just asking. Claire walked around the counter and kissed my cheek. You're acting strange. I'm tired. You keep saying that. I looked down at my coffee before quietly asking, do you ever lie to me? She laughed once. What kind of question is that? A serious one. Claire crossed her arms. Ethan, if this is about me working too much, we already talked about it. It's not. Then what is it? For one dangerous second, I almost showed her the footage. Instead, I swallowed the anger burning in my throat. Nothing, I muttered. Her eyes narrowed slightly. You're hiding something. The irony nearly made me laugh. Around noon, I met my best friend Ryan Mitchell at a sandwich shop near downtown. Ryan took one look at me and frowned. You look like somebody died. Can we not joke today? His expression changed immediately. What happened? I stayed quiet while he waited. Finally, he leaned back in his chair. Okay, now I'm worried. I pulled out my phone and opened the security footage without saying anything. Ryan watched the short clip twice. Who's the guy? I don't know. And Claire said she was alone? Yeah. Ryan exhaled slowly. Damn. I rubbed my face with both hands. Maybe I'm overreacting. You're not. They could just be coworkers. Coworkers don't leave buildings together looking like that. I hated hearing the words out loud. Ryan lowered his voice. Did you confront her? No. Why not? Because if I'm wrong, I destroy everything. And if you're right? I stared silently at the table. Ryan sighed. Listen, don't do anything stupid yet. Find out the truth first. What if the truth destroys me anyway? It probably will, he admitted. But at least you'll know. That evening, I parked across the street from Claire's office building 30 minutes before she usually finished work. I felt pathetic sitting there alone in my car, watching the entrance like some paranoid stranger. At 7:18 p.m., Claire walked outside. My heartbeat immediately sped up. 2 seconds later, the same man from the footage appeared beside her. Dark coat. Expensive watch. Confident smile. He touched her lower back again while speaking to her. I gripped the steering wheel so hard my fingers hurt. Claire laughed at something he said. Then they crossed the street together and entered a small Italian restaurant. I stayed frozen inside my car. Go inside, I whispered to myself, but I couldn't move. Every emotion hit me at once. Rage, humiliation, confusion, jealousy. I watched them through the restaurant window for nearly an hour. The man leaned closer constantly. Claire never pulled away. At one point, she smiled at him the same way she used to smile at me. That hurt more than anything else. When they finally left the restaurant, I ducked lower in my seat. The man opened the passenger door of his car for her. Claire touched his arm before getting inside. The gesture looked intimate. Familiar. I felt sick. By the time I got home, Claire was already there. She looked up from the couch. Hey. You disappeared all evening. I had work. She smiled softly. You've been distant all day. Sorry. Claire walked over slowly. Talk to me. I wanted to scream at her. Instead, I asked quietly, do you love me? Her face softened immediately. Of course I do. The lie shattered something inside me. She wrapped her arms around my neck and kissed me gently. I forced myself not to pull away. Later that night, she fell asleep beside me while I stared at the ceiling in silence. I kept replaying the footage in my head. The laughing, the touching, the lies. And for the first time since meeting Claire Donovan, I started wondering if our entire relationship had been built on deception from the very beginning. I turned my head toward the window beside our bed and recognized the man staring back at me somewhere between morning and tonight. Trust had died inside me, and I did not know whether I wanted to fight or watch everything destroy it. I became obsessed with finding the truth. Every little thing Claire did started bothering me. When her phone lit up, she angled the screen away from me. When I asked simple questions, she answered too quickly. When she smiled at random messages, my stomach tightened instantly. One night I asked, who keeps texting you? She barely looked up. Work. At midnight? You know my schedule is crazy lately. Yeah, I muttered. I noticed. Claire sighed heavily. Why are you acting like this? Like what? Suspicious. The word almost made me laugh. Instead, I asked quietly, are you hiding something from me? She locked her phone and crossed her arms. Ethan, if you don't trust me, just say it. I stared at her for several seconds before backing down again. That scared me the most. I was becoming afraid of hearing the truth out loud. The next afternoon, Ryan showed up at my apartment carrying coffee and his laptop. "You look worse today," he said. "Thanks. I did some digging." I looked up immediately. "About the guy?" "Yeah." Ryan sat beside me and opened his laptop. "His name is Marcus Hale." The name sounded cold and expensive. Ryan continued, "He owns part of Claire's company." "What?" "He's rich, divorced, and apparently everybody in that office is scared of him." I frowned. "Scared how?" Ryan scrolled through several pages. Former employees called him manipulative. One woman accused him of sleeping with staff members. My chest tightened painfully. Ryan looked at me carefully. "You think Claire's one of them?" I stayed silent. "That bad, huh?" "I followed her yesterday." Ryan leaned forward. "And?" "She had dinner with him." "Damn." "She lied straight to my face afterward." Ryan cursed under his breath. "What are you gonna do?" "I don't know anymore." "Talk to her." "And say what?" "Hey Claire, I know you're seeing your rich boss behind my back. You deserve answers." I rubbed my eyes. "I'm scared of the answers." That evening, Claire texted me around 7. "Working late again. Don't wait up." I stared at the message for nearly a minute before grabbing my jacket. An old guest pass still sat inside my wallet from a company party months earlier. By 8:30, I was standing inside Claire's office building trying to act invisible. The night security guard barely glanced at me. My heartbeat pounded violently while I walked toward the elevators. The office floor looked almost empty except for a few lights near the conference rooms. Then I heard voices. Claire's voice. I stopped instantly outside a partially open office door. Marcus spoke first. "You can't keep doing this." Claire sounded frustrated. "Lower your voice." "I'm serious, Claire." "So am I." "You're still going home to him every night." My chest tightened. Claire answered softly, "It's complicated." "No, it isn't." Marcus sounded irritated now. "Leave him." Silence filled the room for 2 painful seconds. Then Claire whispered, "I still care about Ethan." Hearing my name almost destroyed me. Marcus laughed bitterly. "Care about him? You're sleeping with me." "Don't say it like that." "Why not?" "It's true." I pressed my hand against the wall to steady myself. Claire spoke again, quieter this time. "I never meant for this to happen." "But it did." "I know." "Then stop pretending you're still in love with him." Her voice cracked slightly. "I do love him." The words should have comforted me. Instead they hurt even more. Marcus scoffed. "You love the safe version of your life with him." "That's not fair." "You stay with him because he makes you feel secure." "And what do you make me feel?" A long silence followed. Then Marcus answered softly, "Alive." I couldn't listen anymore. Every part of me felt shattered. I walked back toward the elevator before either of them noticed me. Near the lobby, a woman sitting behind the reception desk looked up from her computer. She recognized me immediately. "You've visited before, right?" she asked gently. "Yeah." Her eyes studied my face carefully. "You okay?" I forced a weak smile. "Not really." She hesitated before saying, "Sometimes people come into this building smiling and leave looking broken." I let out a hollow laugh. "Guess I'm one of them." She stood and handed me a small paper cup of water. "Thanks." "I'm Olivia," she said quietly. "Ethan." Olivia leaned lightly against the desk. "Whatever happened upstairs, don't let it destroy who you are." I stared down at the cup in my hands. "That's easy to say." "No," she replied softly. "It really isn't." I looked at her for the first time carefully. Calm eyes. Honest expression. No fake sympathy. Before leaving, I asked, "How do you deal with painful truth?" Olivia gave me a sad smile. "Truth always hurts more before it heals." I walked outside into the cold Chicago air and finally understood why Claire kept looking at me with guilt in her eyes. She was trapped between two lives and I was the fool standing in the middle of both. During the drive home, Olivia's words echoed inside my head louder than Claire's lies. Claire's birthday dinner started like a performance neither of us believed anymore. She smiled across the restaurant table while candlelight reflected in her eyes. "You've been quiet all day," she said. "I'm thinking." "That sounds dangerous." Ryan sat beside me sipping whiskey awkwardly. "I already regret agreeing to this dinner." Claire laughed softly. "You're dramatic." "No," Ryan muttered. "I'm observant." I glanced at him quickly, silently warning him not to say too much. Claire noticed. "What was that look?" "Nothing," I answered. The waiter arrived with drinks, briefly saving us from the tension hanging over the table. Claire lifted her glass. To surviving another year. Ryan forced a smile. Yeah. Cheers. I barely touched my drink. Claire frowned slightly. Ethan, seriously, what's wrong with you lately? Do you really want the truth? Her smile faded a little. What does that mean? Before I answered, her phone buzzed on the table. Then again. Then again. She flipped the screen downward immediately. Ryan noticed it too. You popular tonight? He asked casually. Work stuff, Claire replied quickly. At 9 o'clock? I asked. She sighed. Can we not do this here? Do what? This weird interrogation thing. I stared at her silently while another notification lit up her phone. Her hands actually trembled reaching for it. That was the moment something inside me finally snapped. I pulled out my phone slowly and placed it on the table. Claire looked confused. What are you doing? Showing you something. I pressed play. The security footage appeared on the screen between us. Claire walking beside Marcus. His hand on her back. Her laughing. The color disappeared from her face instantly. Ryan looked away awkwardly while the restaurant noise around us suddenly felt distant and muffled. Claire whispered, Ethan? How long? I asked quietly. She swallowed hard. I can explain. Then explain. People at nearby tables started glancing toward us. Claire lowered her voice desperately. Please not here. Why? I asked. Because public humiliation feels uncomfortable? Tears filled her eyes immediately. It's not what you think. I laughed bitterly. I heard you two talking in his office. Her expression shattered completely. You were there? Yes. Claire covered her mouth for a second. Ryan muttered under his breath, Jesus Christ. I leaned closer toward her. You told him you loved me. I do. But you're sleeping with him. Claire started crying quietly. Ethan, please? No. Don't cry now. Tell me the truth for once. She wiped her face shakily. It just happened. That's your explanation? I felt alone, she whispered. You were always working. Her words hit harder than I expected because part of me knew she wasn't completely wrong. You stopped seeing me, she continued. Even when we were together, your mind was somewhere else. So cheating fixed that? No, she cried softly. I never meant for it to go this far. Ryan finally spoke. Claire, you should have ended things first. I know, she whispered. I stared at her for several painful seconds. Every memory of us suddenly felt damaged. Do you love him? I asked. Claire hesitated. That hesitation destroyed me more than any answer could have. Before she could speak, her phone buzzed again. I grabbed it before she could stop me. Marcus calling. I looked up slowly. You invited him? No. The lie came too fast. A minute later, Marcus Hale walked directly into the restaurant wearing a dark coat and the same arrogant expression I already hated. His eyes landed on me instantly. There's a problem, he said calmly. I stood up immediately. You've got some nerve showing up here. Claire grabbed my arm. Ethan, stop. Marcus ignored her. You should sit down before you embarrass yourself further. I moved closer to him. You've been sleeping with my girlfriend. Marcus shrugged slightly. Your girlfriend made her own choices. Ryan stood up fast. Okay, everybody calm down. Marcus looked at me with open pity. Claire deserves someone stronger than you. I felt rage explode inside my chest. What did you say? She spent years babysitting your insecurities while you hid behind work and self-pity. I shoved him hard before I could stop myself. Several people gasped nearby. Marcus stepped forward instantly. You want to do this? Ryan grabbed my shoulder. Ethan, don't. Claire cried openly now. Please stop fighting. Marcus adjusted his jacket calmly. You know what your problem is? You're weak. I lunged toward him again, but Ryan pulled me backward before I could hit him. Not here, Ryan hissed. I looked at Claire one final time. She was crying so hard she could barely speak. Ethan, please don't leave. For weeks, I imagined hearing those words would matter. Now they didn't. I stepped backward slowly. You already left me, I said quietly. Then I walked out of the restaurant without turning around. The cold night air hit my face hard, but it still felt easier to breathe outside than beside her. When I returned to the apartment later that night, Claire still had not come home. I grabbed a suitcase from the closet and started packing silently. Every object felt heavier than it should have. Photos, clothes, memories. At midnight, Claire finally walked through the door. Her eyes widened instantly. What are you doing? I'm leaving. She dropped her purse. Please don't do this. I zipped the suitcase closed. You already made your choice. I made a mistake. No, I answered coldly. You made hundreds of them. She started crying again while I carried my suitcase toward the door. This time I did not stop for her voice behind me. And for the first time in weeks, I finally felt something stronger than heartbreak. I felt numb. I moved into an apartment across the city 3 days after leaving Claire. The place smelled like dust and old paint, but I barely noticed. I spent most nights sitting on the floor beside my unpacked boxes staring at my phone while ignoring calls from almost everyone. Ryan kept texting me. You alive? At least answer once. Don't become dramatic and disappear. I ignored every message. Claire called even more. Sometimes late at night. Sometimes early in the morning. I never answered her either. One afternoon, Ryan showed up outside my apartment carrying takeout bags. You look terrible, he said the second I opened the door. I'm aware. He stepped inside slowly. Have you eaten today? I had coffee. That's not food. I sat back down near my laptop while Ryan unpacked burgers onto the kitchen counter. You can't keep living like this, he said. I'm fine. You haven't worked in 2 weeks. I'll survive. Ryan stared at me carefully. You still love her, don't you? I laughed bitterly. That's the problem. He stayed quiet for a moment before speaking again. I heard Claire and Marcus are together publicly now. The words should have crushed me. Instead, I only felt tired. Ryan noticed immediately. You okay? I don't know anymore. That's progress compared to last week. After he left, I sat alone listening to rain hit the apartment windows. Then my phone rang again. Unknown number. I almost ignored it before finally answering. Hello? Hi, Ethan? I frowned slightly. Who is this? It's Olivia. From Claire's office. I sat up straighter instantly. How did you get my number? I probably shouldn't admit this, but I found it in the visitor records. I smiled for the first time in days. That sounds illegal. Probably. Her voice softened. I just wanted to check on you. Why? Because you looked broken the last time I saw you. I leaned back against the wall quietly. You don't even know me. Maybe not, she replied, but I know pain when I see it. Something about her honesty made me stay on the phone longer than I expected. We talked for nearly an hour. Mostly about small things. Movies, music, Chicago weather. Not once did she pressure me to discuss Claire. Before hanging up, Olivia said, You know, heartbreak shouldn't become your entire identity. I stared at the ceiling. Feels hard to avoid right now. Then start smaller. What does that mean? Take one project. Finish one good thing. Remind yourself you still exist outside the relationship. Her words stayed in my head all night. The next morning, I opened my laptop and responded to 3 freelance emails I had been ignoring for weeks. By Friday, I accepted a documentary editing project from a local production company. Ryan nearly sounded shocked when I told him. Look at you acting functional again. Don't get emotional. Too late. Over the next month, my routine slowly returned. Work during the day. Late phone conversations with Olivia at night. Sometimes she talked. Sometimes she just listened while I vented. One evening, I finally asked her, Why are you helping me? She answered immediately. Because nobody helped me when I needed it. That response hit me harder than any speech could have. Weeks later, Ryan called while I edited footage. You busy? Always. I ran into Claire today. I paused the video instantly. Ryan continued carefully. She looked miserable. I waited for the familiar pain to hit me again. It didn't? That's sad, I said quietly. She asked about you. And? I told her you were doing better. For the first time since the breakup, I realized it was true. That night, I opened the hidden folder on my laptop containing hundreds of photos of Claire and me. Beach trips. Birthday dinners. Lazy mornings together. I stared at them silently for several minutes. Then I selected every file. Delete. My finger hovered over the button briefly before pressing it. The screen went empty. I expected to feel destroyed afterward. Instead, I finally felt space opening inside my chest where pain used to live. The version of Claire I loved no longer existed. And slowly I was learning how to breathe again. 3 months after leaving Claire, my life finally started moving forward again. One of my documentary edits exploded online almost overnight. By the end of the week, my inbox filled with new clients and interview requests. Ryan called me laughing. Look at you becoming famous. I'm not famous. You have people arguing about your editing style on the internet. That's basically fame. I leaned back in my chair smiling slightly. At least somebody likes my work now. Ryan went quiet for a second. You sound different. What does that mean? You don't sound broken anymore. That realization stayed with me long after the call ended. For the first time in years, my life belonged to me instead of my relationship. A few nights later, Ryan arrived at my apartment carrying beer and bad news. You remember Marcus Hale? He asked. I frowned. Hard to forget. Ryan sat down heavily. His company's getting investigated. For what? Financial fraud. Employee intimidation. Missing money. I stared at him carefully. Where'd you hear this? My cousin works in corporate law. Apparently Marcus has been hiding some ugly stuff. A strange feeling settled inside my chest. Not satisfaction. Something closer to unease. Ryan continued, there are rumors Claire found out recently. What kind of rumors? She supposedly discovered fake accounts and illegal payments connected to Marcus. I looked away toward the window. Ryan lowered his voice. You okay? I warned myself this would happen. What? That people like Marcus eventually destroy everything around them. 2 nights later, somebody knocked on my apartment door around 11. I opened it without thinking. Claire stood outside crying. For several seconds neither of us spoke. She looked thinner than before. Exhausted. Fragile. Hi, she whispered. I kept my hand on the door. Why are you here? I didn't know where else to go. I almost closed the door immediately. Then I noticed bruised exhaustion beneath her eyes. What happened? Claire stepped inside slowly. Marcus isn't who I thought he was. I laughed bitterly. Congratulations. Welcome to reality. I deserve that. Yes, you do. She wiped her face shakily. Ethan, I'm scared. Hearing fear in her voice disturbed me more than anger would have. I crossed my arms. Tell me what's going on. Claire sat on the edge of my couch staring at the floor. He controls everything, she whispered. My phone. My schedule. The people I talk to. That sounds familiar. I know. You ignored every warning sign because he had money. She flinched at the words but nodded anyway. I made a mistake. You made choices. Claire looked up at me with tears running down her face. I thought he made me feel alive. And now I feel trapped. I stayed silent while she continued speaking. I found documents connected to illegal transfers at his company, she said quietly. When I confronted him, he lost control. My chest tightened. Did he hurt you? Not physically. The pause after those words answered enough already. Claire started crying harder. I don't know what to do anymore. Part of me wanted revenge. Part of me wanted her to experience the same helplessness she once caused me. But another part still remembered loving her. That was the hardest part. I sat across from her carefully. Why come to me? Because you were the only person who ever actually cared about me. The honesty in her voice hurt more than manipulation would have. I rubbed my face slowly. Claire, you destroyed me. I know. You lied to me for months. I know. You chose him. Fresh tears rolled down her cheeks. I know. The apartment fell silent. Finally, I asked quietly, what do you want from me? I need help. I stared at her for several painful seconds before answering. I can help you stay safe tonight. Claire closed her eyes in relief. But that doesn't change what happened between us. She nodded weakly. I understand. Later that night, after Claire fell asleep on my couch, I stepped outside and called Olivia. She answered immediately. You okay? I honestly don't know. What happened? Claire showed up at my apartment. Olivia stayed quiet while I explained everything. When I finished, she asked softly, do you still love her? I looked up at the dark Chicago skyline. Part of me probably always will. That doesn't mean she belongs in your life anymore. I know. Olivia's voice became gentler. Helping someone and trusting them again are completely different things. I leaned against the building quietly. She looked terrified tonight. Then help her because you're a good person, Olivia said. Not because you hope the past can return. I closed my eyes slowly. Saving someone doesn't mean you owe them your heart again. Her words settled heavily inside me. Because deep down, I still couldn't tell the difference between compassion and forgiveness. And that terrified me almost as much as seeing Claire at my door again. When I returned inside, Claire was asleep beneath a blanket on my couch looking smaller than I remembered. I stood there silently realizing karma had finally reached her life too, but watching her suffer brought me far less satisfaction than I once imagined it would bring to me. Marcus Hale's collapse started quietly. Then suddenly everybody was talking about him. News articles flooded social media accusing his company of fraud, intimidation, and illegal financial activity. Former employees posted screenshots online. Anonymous interviews appeared everywhere. One morning Ryan called me laughing in disbelief. "You seeing this?" I just opened my phone. "This guy's entire empire is burning." I scrolled through another article mentioning lawsuits and investigations. "Looks bad," I muttered. Ryan snorted. "Bad? The internet wants his head on a stick." My phone vibrated again before I could answer. Claire calling. Ryan noticed immediately. "You gonna answer?" I hesitated before picking up. "Hello?" Claire sounded breathless. "Ethan, please don't hang up." "What happened?" "He thinks I betrayed him." "Did you?" "No," her voice cracked. "But he's panicking now. He keeps accusing everybody around him." I stayed quiet. Claire lowered her voice. "I need your help." Ryan watched my expression carefully while I listened. Finally, I answered, "I'll call you later." After hanging up, Ryan leaned back in his chair. "You seriously still helping her? She's involved in this mess whether she deserves it or not. She cheated on you." "I remember." Ryan shook his head slowly. "You're a better man than me." That evening, Claire arrived carrying a laptop and several folders. She looked exhausted. "I copied everything I could," she whispered. I opened the laptop carefully while she sat beside me. "What exactly am I looking at?" "Fake accounts, hidden payments, employee settlements." Claire rubbed her trembling hands together. "Marcus used my access credentials for some transactions." I looked up immediately. "Without your knowledge?" "At first, yes." Her voice became smaller. "Later." I stopped asking questions. The honesty hurt, but at least it sounded real. I spent hours helping her organize files and emails proving Marcus manipulated company records. Around midnight, Claire suddenly asked, "Why are you helping me after everything?" I stared at the screen without answering immediately. "Because I know what it feels like when somebody powerful controls your life." Claire lowered her eyes quietly. The next afternoon, Claire received dozens of calls from investigators and lawyers. Then Marcus started calling repeatedly. She ignored every attempt. Finally, another message appeared. "Tell Ethan to stop hiding behind you." Claire looked terrified. "He knows I'm here." "Good," I answered coldly. "I'm tired of hiding." 3 hours later, we stood outside Marcus's luxury apartment downtown. Claire looked pale beside me. "You don't have to come in," I told her. "Yes, I do." Marcus opened the door before we knocked. His expression darkened instantly when he saw me. "You've got nerve showing up here." I stepped inside slowly. "We need to talk." Marcus laughed bitterly. "No, you came here to enjoy the show." Claire spoke quietly. "Marcus, investigators are asking questions. Because somebody leaked information." His eyes locked onto me immediately. "You think this is my fault?" I asked. "You've been poisoning her against me since the beginning." Claire shook her head. "Stop blaming everybody else." Marcus ignored her completely. "You were always insecure, Ethan. Now suddenly you think you're some hero? I never wanted your life." "That's funny," Marcus snapped. "Because you spent months obsessed with it." The tension inside the apartment felt unbearable. Claire stepped forward carefully. "Marcus, please just cooperate before things get worse." He turned toward her sharply. "You betrayed me." "No," she whispered. "You destroyed yourself." Marcus laughed coldly. "You enjoyed every second of this lifestyle until things became dangerous." Claire flinched like he slapped her. Because deep down we both knew he wasn't completely wrong. Suddenly, loud knocking echoed through the apartment. "Chicago Police Department." Marcus froze instantly. Another voice followed. "We have warrants authorizing search and seizure." For the first time since meeting him, I watched real fear crack through Marcus Hale's arrogance. He looked at Claire with disbelief. "You really did this?" Tears filled her eyes. "You gave me no choice." Marcus looked toward me again. "You think you won?" I stared at him silently while investigators entered the apartment. One officer approached Marcus directly. "Sir, we need you to come with us." Marcus pulled away angrily. "This is ridiculous." Another investigator opened folders across the kitchen counter while speaking into a radio. The empire Marcus spent years building collapsed in front of us within minutes. And strangely, watching it happen felt empty. Not satisfying. Not healing. Just sad. While officers escorted Marcus toward the elevator, He looked back one final time. This isn't over. But even he no longer sounded convinced. Afterward, Claire and I sat inside my car parked beneath the building. Neither of us spoke for several minutes. Finally, she whispered, "I need to tell you something." I looked at her carefully. Claire wiped tears from her face slowly. "Part of the reason I stayed with Marcus," she paused painfully, "was because I liked the excitement." I stayed silent. "He made me feel important," she admitted. "The money, the attention, the luxury. I got addicted to it." Her honesty cut deeper than any lie she had told before. But somehow it also brought clarity. "I loved you," she continued softly. "But I loved how different he made me feel." I stared through the windshield quietly. For months I kept asking myself why I wasn't enough. Now I finally understood the answer had never been simple. Claire reached for my hand carefully. "I'm sorry." I pulled my hand away gently. "I know," I said quietly. And for the first time since this nightmare began, I realized revenge could destroy a person, but it could never rebuild the parts already broken inside them. Claire asked to meet me 3 days after Marcus was formally charged. Her text was short. "One last conversation. Please." I almost ignored it. Instead, I found myself driving toward the lakeside where we had our first date years earlier. The cold wind off Lake Michigan hit my face as I stepped out of the car. Claire stood near the railing wearing a dark coat with both hands shoved into her pockets. For several seconds, neither of us moved. Then she gave me a weak smile. Hi. You came. You sounded serious." I was. I walked closer slowly while waves crashed softly behind us. "This place looks smaller now," Claire said quietly. I glanced around. "We were younger then." She laughed faintly. "You spilled coffee on yourself trying to impress me. You laughed for 10 straight minutes. You deserved it." For a brief second, the memory almost felt warm. Then reality returned between us again. Claire looked down at the water. "I've replayed everything in my head 1,000 times." I stayed silent. I kept trying to figure out where I destroyed us. "You want the honest answer?" She nodded slowly. "You destroyed us the moment you stopped respecting me." Claire closed her eyes painfully. "I know." The wind carried silence between us again before she finally whispered, "I'm sorry, Ethan." I looked at her carefully. Not manipulation. Not excuses. Just exhaustion and regret. Claire rubbed her hands together nervously. "I lied so many times that eventually I started lying to myself too." "You didn't have to cheat." "I know." "You didn't have to keep deceiving me after I gave you chances to tell the truth." Tears filled her eyes immediately. "I know." I exhaled slowly. Months ago, seeing her cry would have broken me instantly. Now it only made me sad. Claire wiped her face. "Part of me kept hoping you would save me from myself." "What does that mean?" "I thought no matter how badly I messed up, you'd still love me enough to stay." Her honesty hurt because it sounded true. "You made me feel safe," she continued quietly. "And I took advantage of that." I stared toward the dark water silently. Finally, I said the thing I spent months learning. Loving someone doesn't mean sacrificing your self-respect. Claire started crying harder after hearing those words. I never understood that until now. I looked at her calmly. Neither did I. She stepped closer carefully. "Do you think there's any chance for us someday?" The question hung painfully between us. Part of me remembered lazy Sunday mornings with her. Movie nights. Road trips. The version of Claire who once felt like home. But memories were no longer enough. "I'll always care about you," I admitted quietly. "But I can't trust you again." Claire covered her mouth as tears rolled down her face. "I hate myself for what I did to you." "Don't?" She looked confused. "Why not?" "Because hating yourself won't fix anything." "Then what will?" I shook my head slowly. "Probably nothing completely." The truth felt brutal but necessary. Claire looked away toward the skyline. "Marcus losing everything scared me. He destroyed himself. So did I." I stayed quiet because there was nothing left to argue about anymore. After a long silence, Claire asked softly, "Did you ever regret leaving me?" I thought carefully before answering. "I regretted losing the person I thought you were." That answer shattered whatever hope remained in her expression. She nodded weakly. "That's fair." Another cold gust of wind passed between us. Then Claire surprised me by smiling through tears. "You look stronger now." "I had to become stronger." "I'm glad." I studied her face one final time. The guilt was real now. So was the regret. But neither could rebuild what she broke. "I should go," I said quietly. Claire's breathing became uneven again. This is really goodbye, isn't it? I hesitated for one painful second before nodding. Yes. She started crying openly while I stepped backward. I did love you, Ethan. I know. And part of me always will. I swallowed hard. Goodbye, Claire. Walking away from her felt heavier than I expected. Every step carried memories behind it, but I kept moving anyway. When I finally reached my car, I looked back once. Claire still stood alone beside the lake, crying quietly beneath the city lights. For the first time in months, my future no longer terrified me. It felt uncertain, lonely, painful. But finally, it also felt free. Nearly a year later, my life barely resembled the one I lost. My apartment felt warmer now. My work schedule stayed busy. And for the first time in a long time, silence no longer felt lonely. I sat in my editing studio finishing a documentary trailer when Ryan called me unexpectedly. You free tonight? He asked. Depends. On what? How annoying you plan to be. Ryan laughed loudly. Good. Sarcasm means you're emotionally healthy again. I'll survive. You coming out or not? I glanced toward Olivia sitting across the room reading through paperwork. What do you think? I asked her. She smiled slightly. You should go. Ryan immediately groaned through the phone. She's there, isn't she? Maybe. You two are disgustingly calm together. Olivia laughed softly while I answered, not every relationship needs explosions. Still weird hearing you sound happy again, Ryan admitted. After hanging up, Olivia closed her folder carefully. You really are different now. How? You don't carry anger around anymore. I leaned back in my chair thinking about that. Maybe she was right. Months earlier, pain controlled every decision I made. Now it felt distant, like a scar instead of an open wound. Olivia stood and walked toward my desk. You've got another email. Client. Bigger than that. I opened the message and stared at it silently. A major streaming company wanted to license one of my documentaries. Olivia grinned immediately. That's huge. I laughed quietly. I think I'm in shock. You earned this. Hearing those words from her felt different than hearing praise from anybody else. There was no pressure inside her voice. No manipulation. Just honesty. Later that evening, Olivia and I stayed in the studio ordering takeout while snow fell outside the windows. At some point, I opened an old archive folder searching for footage from a previous project. Then I froze. The security video appeared on my screen accidentally. Claire leaving the building beside Marcus. The exact moment that destroyed my old life. Olivia noticed my expression. You okay? I stared at the footage quietly. A year ago, that video made me feel physically sick. Now something else settled inside me instead. Gratitude. Olivia walked closer carefully. You don't have to watch it. No, I said softly. I think I do. The video played silently. Marcus touching Claire's back. Claire laughing beside him. Two people leaving together. The beginning of everything ending. And somehow I no longer hated it. Olivia studied me carefully. What are you thinking? I leaned back slowly. I spent months believing that moment ruined my life. And now? Now I think it revealed the truth before I wasted even more years pretending everything was perfect. Olivia stayed quiet while I continued. If I never saw this footage, I probably would have stayed trapped in a relationship built on lies. She rested her hand gently against my shoulder. You survived it. Barely. But you still did. I smiled faintly before closing the video forever. That night, Olivia and I walked through downtown Chicago while snow covered the streets and rooftops around us. People hurried past carrying shopping bags and hot coffee while music drifted from nearby restaurants. Olivia slipped her hand into mine naturally. No games. No uncertainty. Just peace. You know something? She asked. What? The first time I met you, you looked like somebody drowning. I laughed quietly. Honestly, I probably was. You don't anymore. We stopped near a streetlight while snowflakes landed across her coat. For a moment, I simply looked at her. Not because she saved me. Not because she fixed me. But because she reminded me what honesty felt like. I used to think healing meant forgetting everything painful, I admitted. And now? I glanced up at the falling snow. Now I think healing means surviving pain without letting it turn you into somebody bitter. Olivia smiled softly. That sounds wiser than the man I met a year ago. He was kind of a disaster. He was hurt. I nodded slowly. Maybe that broken version of me deserved more kindness than I ever gave him. Because despite the humiliation, heartbreak, and anger, He still found the strength to walk away when staying would have destroyed him completely. Olivia squeezed my hand gently. Where'd you disappear to just now? I smiled and looked ahead at the glowing Chicago skyline. Nowhere, I answered quietly. I think I finally came back. We continued walking together through the snow-covered streets while the city lights reflected across the ice beneath our feet. And for the first time in years, my future no longer felt like something to fear. It finally felt like mine.